What's this? What's this bitch? This, God damn it! Every fucking time, this little shit.
All right. How's it going? This is the Pat Shand versus Raven Gregory podcast, the weekly podcast. Today we have Aurora O'Brien on stream, and I want to say before we started going live, Raven called. I mean, you've known Aurora longer than I have, but you called her like Aroibus. What the fuck did you call her?
I have problems saying words correctly.
He always says my name incorrectly.
Don't word shame me, Pat.
Give it a go. Give it a go.
Or Aurora. Did I do it?
I mean, like, it would be even better if you just said the word "or" 3 times. It's closer.
Or.
I mean, that's the closest you've gotten.
This is horrible. This is horrible.
That's good.
How dare you shame me for my disability of not being able to pronounce words properly?
Speaking of names, you know, your real name is Raven Renwick, right? Or Renwick Gregory?
This bitch. What this bitch, dude? Don't, man, you know there's a stalker out there. This motherfucker had his own personal stalker coming after his ass, making fucking phone calls and shit. And you gonna put my real name out on the fucking internet? You hateful, dirty little bitch.
You talked about it before in public.
Yeah, it's a comic book name, Raven Renwick. It sounds like a comic book name.
Bro, that's what I'm saying. Like, you put out all this, like, you know, goth-centric material, like Wonderland, No Tomorrow. You would think that, I mean, Renwick is like a Dracula's minion. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that? Like Renwick Raven.
It literally sounds too much like a comic book name. Reed Richards, Peter Parker, Sue Storm, Raven Renwick. Sounds silly.
To it.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, like, the Raven part, I mean, you gotta get rid of that part, you know. But like,
now, when I do transition into porn full time,
I mean, already
will be Raven Renwick. I will use my God-given name in porn because it sounds like a porn star. Oh my God! Did you see Raven Renwick with the fucking? Ooh.
Bro, do you know? Did you know that you asked what the rules should be when we start, and you got them all wrong? And I said the one thing you can't do is curse in the first 5 minutes and say the word PORN. That's all I said, and you said it 3 times. I just said say corn, bitch.
Dude, Pat, at 45 years old, I am realizing, like, really fucking realizing, I don't listen to anything anyone says. I just catch bits and pieces of what, like, all I heard out of that is, Raven, I'll never be as good as a writer as you. I dream of the day I could have hair as amazing as yours. Oh my God, your nipples are looking so great in all those pictures you keep posting on fucking Facebook to inspire nipples everywhere. And something about you really admire my lips. And I appreciate all those compliments, Pat. You are a wonderful person. Aurora, I see your hands moving down this way. Stay in control. We're in public. There's children watching and shit. I know this hair does it for you. It's doing it for Pat right now. You can't see it, but Pat is like literally like right down below.
Oh goodness.
I mean, before.
By the way, Pat, can I ask you and Aurora something real quick?
No, 1 sec. Let me just get I mean, there's an elephant in the room, obviously, you know.
Okay.
The hair is green and horrible, right? And normally it's gold and horrible, and it's been gold and horrible for decades now. And I've been pushing for it to just be like a normal 45-year-old man's hair, black, or in your case, black and gray, right? And recently, bro, I mean, a curse and the word porn in your name. All right. And then recently it went to like this reddish pink, and I could have gone on for days about that. But now you've gone so extreme that I don't even have a joke that anyone else wouldn't think. It's just, I mean, there's nothing to say. It just is what it is, you know?
I just really am enjoying changing the color of my avatar's hair in the real world Matrix. Every once in a while, I just want you play Pokemon. I know your fucking character ain't wearing the same outfit he wore. I mean, girl, you have a girl avatar. You don't even have a guy avatar. I know the bitch you made doesn't look at you. Try look at you. I know she changes her hair every week. I know you bought her new clothes. I know you're like saving up stacks just to buy those pretty Pokemon Go outfits.
I think she's pretty cute. All right. So
can I ask you something real quick before we get started, before we dive into this? I really want to ask you and Aurora this.
I mean, give it a try though, you know?
All right. So you guys know I'm single, obviously.
Long time, yeah.
You guys seem to have like relationships. You're in a relationship now, right, Aurora? You guys seem shut the fuck up, motherfucker. Why you keep making fun of my words? Okay, you guys seem to be like really fucking happy, like you found that special someone that just like makes you happy, that completes you. That's like fucking beautiful. So what I want to know is, having found that person that fills that part of your life, do you guys still jerk off? Like seriously, because I mean, you can't be just fucking all the time. Every time you're horny, you got to like give the other person a break and shit. Sometimes you're not in the mood, but I mean, like we all have sexual desires and needs. Even like having access to pussy and dick now, do you guys still like?
Bro, I mean, do you just ask women this kind of shit on a regular basis?
I just wanted to set the bar on where this shit could go from.
I'm about to say, if you're wondering why you're single.
You know, he's got a point there. You're kind of upset, don't you, Raven?
You know how often I get this same response in public? I have no common sense. I just say like, what's on my mind? I was just sitting there the other night and I'm like, well, I'm single. Of course, I'm going to take care of my own shit. I wonder if married people and relationship people still be doing that shit too.
Now, Raven, you've had relationships. I know it's been a minute or two. You don't remember?
Yeah, but that was when I was younger, when I was full of piss and vinegar and everything was jerk. I mean, not jerk. But I mean, like when you're young, you just want to fuck all the fucking time. Like there's much less consideration and getting in your head and getting out of your head than when you're older and you like understand that people are actually fucking people and not just objects. So I just was curious about it from the mind state.
When you're older, you know?
Listen, you young motherfuckers, I know you're both little babies still. Aurora's like 23. You're like 14, Pat. But we're trying to have a grown-up conversation here for the people out there.
I feel like we're trying to have a grown-up conversation. Well, here's the thing. If I'm going to give a serious answer to this, I would say that for anybody, what was true before is likely true during.
Yeah, but before you didn't have access to somebody in which to stick things and have things stuck into.
All right. So Aurora, how did Raven get you to do this? How did Raven get me to do this? But how did Raven get you to do this?
Well, I was just asking him some questions about picking his brain about writing, and he immediately jumped to hopping on a podcast to ask.
Oh my god!
So I went with it.
All right. Well, let's try to help you out as well then. If you have any questions about writing that you want to flow here, I'm more than happy to hear that. As is Raven for sure.
Yeah, I figured this would be a way to answer those questions that we get asked all the time about where do story ideas come from? Where do we start? And we're two completely different writers. You obviously having your own publishing company, forming this vast empire, constantly living in my shadow for your entire career. I mean, you're going to totally have a different perspective on the formulation of a story than I am. So I figured this would be a shortcut that anytime someone else asks this question, I could be like, hey, look at Aurora's video.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you wouldn't say it that way. But
I would.
But no, yeah, it's true. Totally different places in our careers. I'm flourishing. My career is active. I'm doing better than ever. And Raven is involuntarily retired. Uh, 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 uh,
Stop making me laugh. Every time you make me laugh, I see the green hair and I feel like I'm doing blackface Joker.
in
It's
February,
Black History Month. I'm allowed.
I mean, like you're on the fence, bro. But
You bitch! Oh, you dirty bitch!
all right.
I
So
miss your laugh, Raven. You crack me up.
I miss you. You know, she was on my shoulders in San Diego, and we were having the best fucking fun. She's literally the lightest person on the planet, Pat. There is, hey, what's up, Ames?
here,
I've never met another person. I've put many people on these shoulders. I've had many people with their legs on these shoulders, and she's the lightest by far. That wasn't meant to sound dirty.
Probably not true that you've had that experience, but okay. I will not let you slander this woman on our live. Armin says, "Oh boy, versus matchup of the year so far," and then he says, "Raven's green hair is straight fire."
Thank you for lying to me, sir.
I was about to say, cat. You know? All right. Let's talk about writing then.
Yeah, so Aurora.
Roar.
I'm never gonna say it right.
It's
It's
easier.
really one word and at the start and the end.
Okay, let's try it together. Ready? Or
Uh. Roar.
roar.
That's it.
Too difficult.
Together.
It's easier than a. I can't even say it how you say it.
Oh my Raven.
I missed you. We eat Cuban food together, internet. Just so you guys know, we all actually hang out in public, except for Pat, who's too good for the rest of us now that he's blew up and he's living the Drake lifestyle, walking around his house saying, I got everything. I got everything.
I cannot
Seriously,
complain.
every time he calls me, he has a song playing in the background like soundtrack music.
Oh gosh.
All right. So questions about writing. Anything that you would have asked Raven in Messenger, you can ask here and get a much better answer from me, and then you can get some rambling bullshit and your name mispronounced egregiously from Raven.
Well, I'm gonna hop in and just ask my biggest question that I've been trying to figure out. I have a story. I have it in my head. I need to put it together. Now, I don't know. I've tried like doing a whiteboard and writing down the key points. I've tried, just writing everything and then trying to sort through. But initially, how do you organize the entire story that you have?
All right. For me, it is different with every story. There are some stories that are more character driven, more that has the characters informed by what happens, and I sort of fill in the best kind of character role. So as far as putting it into practice, what I do these days is I just do a simple beat sheet, which is sort of closer to what you were talking about as far as getting the ideas out there. What I'll do is write it as a bullet list, just the basic ideas of what happens. So that way, if I go to change anything or move things around, it isn't these big chunky paragraphs. It's just single lines that I can easily separate as story beats or character beats. And it's sort of like, for me, the in between a whiteboard or post-it notes, where that's a physical object that you can look to and refer to. And this is a visually simple way to just get the most simple version of the idea out there. And that's how I've done things for a while. I mean, to the point where I have to, when a publisher asks for an outline, I'll have to sort of go more in depth than I usually do, because I've gotten so used to this form.
Okay. Interesting. Now, before you were to start a comic, would you have it the story start to finish completed before you would move forward, or is there any wiggle room to kind of work with it with a vague idea of the ending?
There's wiggle room. There's wiggle room. I mean, Raven has never gone into a comic knowing the ending, and that's, I mean, that's why for him the endings never really hit in his series, you know, because it was just never even a thought until like the last. No, quite the contrary. That's why the ending of the Wonderland trilogy is so potent and lives up to the entire rest of the book.
I can't tell if you're like being for real or if you're like tongue in cheek in me, because part of me is like, yeah, man, I know my shit's dope. I do dope things. And then there's a part of me that's like, is he fucking with me? Is he fucking with? Did I drop the ball on that shit? Because there's only like one book I'm like, I know I didn't drop the ball on, Beyond Wonderland. You ever fucking point any shit out in that, Pat, I'm gonna come after you.
Beyond is good.
Okay.
Does it have its soft spots? Yeah.
But all right, he told me about something called purple prose, and it's completely fucked up my world because now all I see in my writing is this purple prose, which is basically saying a million things more than you have to say because you like flowering and you like the sound of your own voice.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you were talking about masturbation. It is the ultimate masturbatory writing style. And well, that's you, bro. You know, that's you.
Why is he playing therapist and dissecting my soul? He's like, even your writing is fucking about jerking off.
That's a good question, though. You know, the truth is that there are two schools of thought. You know, comics, I find, is the writing style is very inspired by the TV writing style, which people generally want to know the entire arc before they begin. But I'm a big Stephen King fan, and Stephen King has always liked to surprise himself with the ending. So he has a rough idea of where he's going, but he thinks that if, as he's writing, he sort of leaves the ending open enough that if inspiration hits differently as he's going along, he could fill in the ending based on his experience writing it. Now, on the other end of that, Stephen King is widely known as not having the best endings, you know, but to be fair, that is an impression of his books that I don't know if it's entirely accurate because he has so many books. So if someone read, say, 20 Stephen King books and didn't like the ending 10 times, they may think, oh, he's bad at endings. But Stephen King has written hundreds of short stories, probably over 50 or 60 novels. So that's just a small portion of his work. So when your body of work is that large, these kind of impressions from people who haven't read the whole thing might not be super consistent. So I like to think that my way is this. I am, again, kind of in between. I have my original version of the ending, but as I progress, I find that I find myself discovering new things about character, about the world, and if my ideal ending has changed or I have a stroke of inspiration by the time I get around that area, I'm perfectly fine to change it. So my basic advice is go in with an ending in mind, but be open enough that you aren't locked into it.
That makes sense. So I always not having ending because of plot holes.
Yeah,
I agree with Pat 100% on everything he just said. For most of my career, I lived under the Stephen King school of thought of if you don't know what's coming, the reader's not going to know what's coming. And there's something that like having done this workout shit, having done all these drugs, having done like all these various like meditation, therapy, all this shit. We're all searching for this place in whatever creative arts where we kind of just disappear into the fucking ether and whatnot. And with writing, it's when the story takes over, when it comes alive, when the characters are telling you what to do. You have more of a chance of getting that if you operate under the function of, okay, I have a vague idea of where I'm going, but I don't want to write the roadmap to the whole thing. Later on in my career, it was very much you're pitching to a publisher. They want to know what's happening in the first act, what's happening in the second act, what's happening in the third act, breaking those acts down and saying, here's the story. Now, if I'm writing something for me, just in the romanticized idea of what's going to make the experience best for you, do whatever's the thing that's going to find you the music. I always tell Pat this thing. I made this joke for years about whenever we're writing a story, it's almost like we're listening for a song we've known our whole life, but we've never heard before. And the second we hear it, it's just like, go. I don't know if Pat operates the same way, because he is obviously in the elementary school level of writing, whereas I have far exceeded just off drug usage alone in what's that who's the Kurt Vonnegut? Yeah.
Yeah, bro, Kurt Vonnegut.
Did I say it wrong?
Yeah, man.
Fuck you, bitch. You knew it was a good fucking head. Mine is more the Shakespeare Aurora. Did I do it right? Aurora, fucking my light, my sunlight. Isn't that what Aurora means? Is sunlight or something?
Aurora is not a word.
That's the truth.
God, I hate you. God.
That means nothing.
It's never worked. I've dealt with this my whole life, Pat. You know this.
That's like Arroyo con pollo, you know, like that's not even English.
Oh my.
But I mean, the thing is it's your story. It's you make the rules of what you want it to be. Mm-hmm. The best fucking way, like, and seriously, ask Pat. This is the easiest way to tell the story exactly the way it's meant to be told. That's going to be best for you, most fun for you, and actually get it done. Sit down and write it.
Well,
no, I mean that's I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it, but that's true. It's, you know, as an aspiring writer, when I was first coming up, I didn't like hearing that advice, because my thought was, I mean, yeah, obviously I want to write, so I'm going to write. But the truth is that the more you do it, the harder it becomes to sit down and do it. You know, it's easy to obsess over ideas, to you know, fantasize about plot, and to even put pieces of plot together. The actual writing of the content, either if it's a novel, prose, if it's a comic, or a script, that becomes the harder part, you know, because it's the actual doing of things. It's the translation of idea to final piece of art, and that is not always easy, you know. It's there's this pressure that you feel that the final piece of art won't live up to the idea, and the truth is that's the thing that we all have to shake as writers, because the idea is nothing yet, you know, like it's just a thought in your head. And that's always one of the things that I hear most on writing panels is someone will ask something to the effect of, how can I submit to publishers and not fear my idea being stolen? And my answer is always that the publisher is not invested in an idea. No one who is working professionally cares about an idea, because they know how difficult it is to translate an idea to a unique final piece of work. Mm-hmm. So,
and also, side note, people out there watching this, if you're submitting ideas to publishers, they're not reading it. We don't read it. We don't read it at all, unless we know you, or unless it's really good. And if you're a writer, unless you have a name, nobody's reading your stuff, because legally we're not allowed to. So good luck. Keep trying that one. I did for 10 years until I found that shit out, that you can't solicit unless you've been solicited. That's how Marvel actually works, guys. They have to come to you. You actually have to be like, hey, I'm interested in writing for you. They have to write back, hey, we're interested in you writing for us. Here's the story you're going to write. It's not come up with shit, maybe springboard some shit.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, sometimes. In my Marvel work, which is crazy that you haven't ever gotten any, Raven. But when I wrote my Marvel novels, I was
Nobody can dig me like Pat. The hurtful words that come out of this bitch's mouth.
I was given just the character, you know, and I had to come up with a pitch, and that can be kind of hard too, because when you're given that kind of freedom, you know that there's other writers who are being asked the same thing, so you have to be the best. And thankfully, because I'm me, in every case I've gotten it, you know. But say if it happened to Raven, that unfortunately wouldn't have been the case. Like if both Raven and I were pitching on the same thing, they would read mine and go, oh, and then they would read Ravens and go, oh.
Also, a thing that really does help, not to ignore everything that just came out of the Ewok's mouth.
As always.
The problem with creating something for yourself is you know when it has to be done, which is never. It never has to be fucking done. There literally is nothing in the world making it get done. If you can find a way to make it get done, I apologize for Widow's Web 6 being like 5, 6, 7, 8 years late, people. But I just got a Wonderland gig. I promise you that shit will be done before the end of the week. See what I mean? It's like the human brain is very fucking weird when this is why people who, not Pat, who's the consummate professional apparently, but this is why so many like big name creators who do their own creator-own book fall into this place of, okay, I can't get it done. I'm waiting for the inspiration to hit me. I'm waiting to be inspired. Life gets in the way, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it has to be perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. When you're done writing it, when you're done drawing it, you're always going to find some flaw in it as you continue to grow as a creative artist and whatnot. So, I mean, setting a deadline like when you ever heard of like a 5-year plan? You guys both heard of a 5-year plan, right?
Yeah.
Setting a goal for I'm going to get a 5-year plan done in 6 months. You might not hit the goal, but you have like a straight target on what you're trying to accomplish by putting yourself under the confines of this has to get done by here, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, that makes sense. Now, big question, how do you avoid burnout along the way? Everybody has their own technique, so I'd like to hear you, gentlemen, share yours.
That's rough. I felt the effects of burnout, you know. I will be writing my schedule and realize how much I have to do and sort of think, oh, so in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be slammed. I'm going to be doing nothing else but my current workload. It's too much to do, but I'll do it. But what I don't take into account is, and this is every time, that doing that will slow me down in the time following, and then I'll always sort of be catching up. And that's a negative thing, you know. That's a thing that I've sort of tried to combat for years now. The truth is that what I would suggest doing is that as you're starting, work diligently and work every day on the writing if you can, but don't work till exhaustion every day. It's so much better to develop a pattern where when you end, you'll be excited to go back again. If you exhaust yourself in a writing session every time you do it, it's going to be harder and harder to come back. And I think that a good trick to avoid having a day that's kind of hard to start following a good session is to end in a place where you're having a fun time writing, not where you had a fun time writing. So when you go back to the script or the story, you're already in a good and fruitful place, and you're already in a place that you're excited to write. Don't stop on one of the sort of exposition scenes. Don't stop on one of the scenes that's sort of working as a transition. Stop at an exciting point, so when you go back, you're gung-ho and ready to go.
Another nice little brain hack you can do is, I know nobody likes a bully, but you could be really mean to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Just by doing this. Next time you sit down to write at your computer, set a stopwatch, and while you're writing, let the clock go. When you're not writing, stop the stopwatch. And when you're done writing your whole session, look at how much time you actually spent writing, and you'll sit there and realize you don't spend that much time writing. Like when you get on a kick and you're white lightning and you're burning, like 4 or 5 hours will pass really fast. But most writing is done like chops and pieces at a time if you're being like steady and whatnot. But when you look at how much time you're like, oh fuck, I spent here an hour trying to write, but 40 minutes of that was looking at my phone, checking my messages, seeing what's going on the internet, going down a rabbit hole here. And, you know, oh, fuck, the new fucking You is on Netflix. That's Pat's favorite show. I got to see it because he loves You. He was like, he thinks it deserves an Oscar. He won't stop talking about it. It's amazing. But when we start, the fucked up thing is every once in a while, you have to do a little bit of self-inventory and realize what your time is actually being used on and realize how little time you're actually putting toward your passions. Pat puts a lot of fucking time toward his passions. You should see his Pokemon Go. He's like level 80.
Live on Kickstarter right now is Cerulean Dreams. This is my current Kickstarter. I'm just tired of hearing Raven speak right now, dude.
Oh boy.
Dad, what is this story about? Korean Dreams, #1.
This brings me back to being in school, like 8th grade, and the teacher calls on the kid who like low-key can't read, and it's just so it's so painful, just like struggling the empathy, you know.
You guys.
It's called Cerulean Dreams. This is a single issue one shot that features stories from the world of Destiny New York, Afterglow, and Smoke Weeds to the Future. You can go on Kickstarter right now and get it. It's a beautiful sampler for each of these stories. If you have been wondering what Destiny New York is about, what Smoke Weeds to the Future entails, what's going on in Afterglow, you can get this now. We have covers from Rosie Campy, Ivan Tao, Sadat Ozgen, and Celtis, as well as Cindy Law with the add-on variant. All these are beautiful, far better than any work that Raven's ever done. And you can get it right now on Kickstarter. Thank you very much. And Raven, back to you.
God damn, this bitch.
I had no idea it was gonna be
Okay.
a session.
That's new Phil.
It's so funny. It's flawless. Hey, so speaking of like coming up with stories and whatnot, how did that story get birthed? Not out of Destiny New York, but how did that like chain of events form into the idea that became the story? Do you have that in your memory banks somewhere?
What series? Cerulean Dreams?
No, I thought Cillian Dreams, Cesaro Dreams is from Destiny New York. It's a spinoff, right?
I mean, it's what I just said it was, right?
Yeah.
It's from 3 different worlds. But yeah,
Right.
Destiny New York came from, it was sort of a meld of things, but largely it was the idea that I was writing Robin Hood for Zenoscope, and that there were certain ideas that weren't going to make it into my run that I was really into, right? That I really wanted to do as its own series. So I pulled that out of Robin Hood and I put the themes onto this new character, Logan. And my idea with Logan was sort of, you know, I would always read these fantasy stories like Harry Potter, Buffy, and these stories that were really prophecy focused. You know, the character has a prophecy or a duty like Frodo from Lord of the Rings. And these are pretty young characters. You know, they do this incredible. They have this incredible achievement. You know, Harry kills Voldemort. Frodo destroys the ring, or I mean, he kind of fucks up in the end. But they go through these big events, and then the story's over. You know, so I wondered, like, what is their adulthood life like? are they like child stars where they're sort of always defined by their past? How do you live knowing that you've done, or people think that you've done, the greatest thing you'll ever do when you were a teenager? That's kind of crazy to me. So the story spun out of that thought mixed with what I was going to do in Robin Hood but couldn't.
You know, it's crazy, Aurora. He has sent Aurora. God
Yeah,
damn it.
much better.
Okay. He sent me all of the Destiny Jersey books a while back, and I read the first volume. I haven't read any of the other ones. And this is like one of my best friends in the world, because friends don't read their friend shit. It's just the way we fucking are. There's too much shit to do. There's too much porn to watch on the internet. There's just not enough time to actually spend quality time with Pat's mediocre writing. But anyway, after that pitch of where the source of his story came from, he actually makes me want to read the book. That sounds like a fascinating fucking concept. Like, dude, what do you do after you save the world? What is your legacy? What is your life like? That's dope. And it's very Harry Potter gay. So now it makes a lot of sense. Enjoy that.
Very good.
So when it comes to writing, I do realize that the vast majority of the main characters are always the coming of age. Do you feel that's kind of an important thing to include in your comic style, stories?
I'd say if it fits what you want to do, I don't think it's 100% necessary. Coming of age, let me think, because that can be interpreted in many different ways. I also like writing the idea of a character who has come of age, who is a bit older and who is having trouble adjusting to changes in society. So the character is sort of stagnant, but society is changing, which is an interesting dichotomy too. So yeah, I don't know if it's 100% necessary. I'd say if you're interested in coming of age stories, if you have elements of your character that you want to explore in that structure, that's cool. I don't think it is a necessity though.
Yeah, but realistically speaking, everything is a coming of age story.
Everything?
Yeah, every year, okay, at this point in your life, don't you guys feel like every year you're discovering new things about your own mental state? Like it's almost like a new you every single year as you become more aware of things, as your perception on things changes, as your opinions change. Everything from when you're 4 years old, you're coming of age. When you're a teenager, you're coming of age. When you're a young adult, you're coming of age. When you're a freaking adult and middle age and middle crisis, you're coming of age. When you're old and you're about to die, you're coming of age. It's all these little stories that basically tell about these significant moments that are like structured throughout a person's life. Everything feels like a coming of age story.
Well, here's the thing. That's a much more esoteric definition of coming of age. You wouldn't call it what?
Because I'm smart, bitch.
No, that's not true. You wouldn't call you wouldn't call Inception a coming of age story. You wouldn't call fucking like Halloween a coming of age story. They have characters who change, and characters at their core, yes, are like us, change over time, but that isn't the focus of every story.
Dude, how is Halloween not a coming of age story? Michael Myers is obviously close to retirement. He just wants to get the fuck off the life track that is the constant shit show of trying to kill this woman. He's just trying to retire. He's trying to go off into the sunset. It is the story of a man's struggle in life to achieve one goal. And he's coming of age. He's getting too old to be chasing that girl through the streets. It's here. It's all or nothing.
Fascinating interpretation, Raven.
Coming of age.
Pretty good.
Oh my. I would like to ask one more question from you, gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
I would like to know because here we are on a podcast. What is the necessary amount of social media, of meeting people in your career? How much time do you have to allot to that in order to be successful in the industry? It seems every creative industry requires a certain amount of socialization.
It's true. I mean, there's different strategies, you know, like there are people who use social every day for just business. There are people who use social to just be as gross as possible to ward everybody off by posting the most egregious personal things just so they whittle their fan base down to the, you know, bare bones. And there and and there are people who balance it out, you know. I try to balance personality and business. And I think that helps hide the business more. When, you know, I'll do posts that are straight up, you know, merch drops, Kickstarter announcements, but I'll also try to bring in, you know, a bit more of me. And as, you know, streaming, podcasting, Twitter spaces, TikToks, video content, voice content is key right now. Getting yourself out there, making people empathize with you by having them see your face, hear your voice. That's really important. And for me, that's even easier than planned, you know, posts, tweets, Facebook posts, that kind of stuff. Just putting myself out there and sort of connecting with my audience and letting them experience for an hour or even a short TikTok who I actually am and how I sound. That I think is more effective. So if you can do, say you're on TikTok, I would say like 3 posts a day would be good. But there are different schools of thought too. You know, Raven wants you to post a diary on Facebook that like 3 entries per hour probably, where every passing thought is just immortalized in time.
So I personally do not recommend social media in any facet. I don't use it myself. I actually have a timer set for 15 minutes that I ignore at least 20 times a day. I'm not joking. Man, it's crazy, man. Here's the thing. The fucked up thing is the only way to become great is to do it so often for so long that you get to a level of proficiency where you just cannot help but be great. If you can get to that level, you don't need social media.
That's true.
Social media does not get you to that level. There's nothing in social media. I mean, you have to sell your work. You have to sell yourself. So it's a very important part. But there's nothing about social media that's going to get you to where you need to go creatively. With me, the only reason I use it particularly the way I do is every once in a while I have a joke or a premise or an idea in my head, and I'm like, let me put that online. Yeah, I could write it down in a fucking journal, but if I see a response from a particular topic and people are like engaging with it, I'm like, oh, that validates I should take that on stage. I should go and perform that piece. If I post something and I get a message from Pat and he's like, dude, I know maybe I might have taken it too far. Hence the beginning of our conversation about, do you guys in happily relationships still jerk off? I don't think about what the fuck I say. I've always been that way. I've always been the type of person that what you see is literally what you get. You know?
What's crazy is like I see myself and friends see me as a sort of loose cannon on social, but compared to you, I mean, it's I can't believe that I'm saying this, but it is in some ways it's an admirable trait that there's really no filter. Like you are, even though you don't like make any art, you are a true artist at heart. You know, you.
It's because I'm autistic.
You're uncompromising in what you post.
I have no idea if I'm actually autistic, but I'm just gonna say it and wear that badge. That's I'm afraid to test it.
Authentic. You're authentic to
it's true. Yeah, he's definitely on the authentic spectrum. He is. But Raven, it's true. And I'm joking around when I fuck with you, but it is it's admirable that you really don't think about the context of the post. You have the idea, and then the idea is shared, and that's pretty cool. You know, sometimes it can get you in trouble, and in that case, I'm like, hey, that post about, you know, just don't do that one. The rest
about trans for some reason. For some reason, the topic of trans comes on. Okay, so here's an example of a story that happened to me the other day. So I have a friend, this beautiful woman that I love and adore. I knew her back before, and she was my boy.
Be careful now, bitch.
But check it out. So I met her many years after she had transitioned, and I was kind of freaked out. I'd never been exposed to that shit. And I felt awkward and weird. But as years passed and I expanded my social circle and learned about different people, I met her again and we went out to have dinner. And I felt really bad that I had treated her awkwardly. And as soon as we walked through the door of the sushi restaurant, I was like, hey, man, I just want you to know, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. But I got to know, do you still got your dick?
I mean,
you still got your dick? And dude, she was like, man, I use that dick now more now that I'm a woman than I did when I was a man. And I'm like, oh shit, we're off to the fucking races. And as the dinner continued, I realized that I had reached this level where I was actually like, dude, I'm looking at her, I'm looking at this young woman, this lady, and I'm acknowledging that she's a woman because everything she's saying, I'm having a real hard time paying attention to because I can't stop looking at her titties. I'm just like, you know, so yeah, sometimes I speak without thinking.
Well, you here's the thing. Some people have questions about these topics, right? You happen to have a lot of questions about transgender people. You do. And there are people who wonder things and they just go, and don't ask them. There are other people who go, man, I wonder, but I don't want to offend anybody, so I'll do this. And they go to like Reddit and they post an anonymous question. They post an anonymous question so no one can tie them back to it. You go, hey, can anybody tell me? You know, just immediately. Like the question isn't even fully formed. You're like already typing it, you know?
Dude, but the crazy thing is the second like you have these conversations with people where you're not saying anything out of trying to be hurtful. You're not saying anything out of spite. You're saying it from a sense of levity, of a sense of I actually do want to understand where you're coming from. If you don't make the mistake of asking the wrong question the wrong way, how do you ever find the right way to ask the question? You know, and like that, with one question, all of a sudden it was like everything was cool. That whole awkward shit disappeared like it was nothing.
That's good.
And it takes a while. Like as you grow up, I don't know if you grew up like Catholic. You like my daughter's gay, my sister's gay. I grew up like being taught that gays go to hell. You know, it takes a long time, and I didn't have gay friends. So once you start expanding your circle and learning these things about people, but you don't learn if you just sit there and you're afraid to ask questions. If you're afraid to like express, this is an honest fucking, I'm not being mean about it. Everybody thinks black people got big dicks. Guess what, guys? It's fucking true. Giant dicks, all of us, and we're amazing lovers in bed, especially the one with the green hair.
Oh my.
But yeah, I feel like there's this thing. I see it a lot in comedy, especially where people are like, hey, I don't want to offend you. Hey, I'm just letting you know this. I didn't mean this. And I'm like, nobody's doing anything to be mean unless they're an asshole. You know? Yeah. And you can tell who the assholes are in the world very, very quickly because you don't hang out with them. You don't want to be around them. Most people genuinely are coming from a good place, regardless of what they say. We're just human and we say stupid fucking things. I just give voice to that stupid.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have seen you definitely. You'll ask something, and someone will comment. The right way to ask this is so and so, and I feel like a lot of other people would be defensive, but you go, "Oh, I didn't know." Okay, and you internalize that, and I mean, because you're you forget it immediately, you know.
Yes,
But you
yes.
internalize it. You mean to internalize it.
Yes, yes. I genuinely, when I interact with anybody from whether they're different race, gender, I mean, dude, again, just finding out the horrors that you women go through. That was like 5 years ago, where it dawned on me you can't walk down a street at night wearing headphones. Oh, by the way, I got to share a good story for you guys real quick. So I found out, I asked some of my other fellow black people. Yes, I'm black, Pat, bitch. I found out that not all black people are afraid of the police. When the police pull up behind them, I always have this thought that I'm about to be murdered. I got to be real fucking careful. It's been like ingrained in me since I was a child. I mentioned this to one of my black friends. He's like, nah, I don't ever get that shit. So the other day I had pink hair and a cop pulled up behind me and I was like, no fear at all. And it was then that I realized cops don't kill black gay people. I felt safe.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mean,
there's your Black History Month tidbit.
That could have been the time where you had your hair dyed black with the Blue Lives Matter line through the middle, you know? It's probably that time.
Hey, quick question, man. Why'd they steal the Black Lives Matter letters? Why did they use the same fucking letters to do Blue Lives Matter? They couldn't come up with their own shit. They couldn't be like Sea Lives Matter. Like they were too confused. They were going to think about sea, the fish.
They tried Sea Lives Matter, but it was blue, so that they were thinking Crips, you know? And that's just
West Side!
Yeah. There should be one with the like how the bandanas have those little symbols, you know, on the blue.
Yeah, but Pat, you know what I'm talking about. Like you grew up as a young gay man growing up in the world, like in the closet, trying to pretend to be straight, actually being a girl inside and suffering with like nipple anxiety. Like, you know, the feeling of trying to come to terms with like just understanding yourself better.
So I'm in this scenario, I'm gay and trans, but separately. Okay. And
you're a midget. I mean, little person. I apologize to the M words out there. I didn't mean to say it with a hard R in the end.
Aurora, did you have any more questions about writing or anything else that you want to hear from the one other professional besides you in the room?
By the way, for anybody out there watching, Pat's way is the way to do things. Don't do things like me. Don't be fucking genuine. Pat, you understand if I get famous, there's no way I survive. I've said too much. I've said too much. The messages alone. You know how many times I got horny and I didn't take care of myself before I sent that text message?
Oh, I mean, you know.
So many times. Aurora, do girls get that? Do girls have to like they send that text message they regret sending because they were just like all pent up with like hormones?
I'm overly cautious. I don't have that. Way too overly cautious. Now, when you guys write a comic, do you write it in a script form? Is that the way a comic would be written?
Yeah, I'll bring one up. I'm not sure if it's going to let me project, but I'll try to project. Raven, while I pull this up, just talk about your bullshit.
So, once upon a time, when I was 4 years old, I saw a gremlin in my house, and it ran across the floor, and then my house started shaking, and I used to hear a voice that used to talk to me in the middle of the night. It was very scary, and that is my experience with the supernatural. The end.
All right, here we go. Here is a script for Destiny New York Volume 6. So this right here, this area is just my intro to the artist. and I have reference here for him to click through from previous volumes. But
go back, Pat. Go back, please. Go back up. Real quick, I would just like to say, I know Pat is much better at me than this at this level in the game, but you see that little section right there where it's like, hey, Mateo, always do that shit. Like, that's basically like the foreplay for the artist to get them hype, excited about because they're gonna sit there and be drawing your words for how many fucking days and shit. Get them amped up and like really sell the story, not pitch, but you're like, hey, let's go, let's do this. Pat,
yes,
it took me years to fucking start doing that. Like
yes,
20 years into my career.
Yeah, it's important, as writer, especially when you're writing and crowdfunding or writing and publishing. You're both the writer, the director, and the artist cheerleader as well. So here, this is how I break down a comic script. I describe the panels. Sometimes I'll do this where it says how much of the page the panel takes up. Largely I'll let the artist decide, but because this is the first panel of this volume, I want to start with a bit of a bigger image. I have the dialogue and captions here. You'll see here, I hire some people to help me out and give notes on this. And yeah, my script just goes this way, where I describe the panel, put the dialogue, panel, dialogue or narration, and so on and so on. So you'll see here we have again, panel, dialogue. So that is my way.
Do you ever hit stories where you're like, you're not going to use any narration?
Oh yeah.
Every once in a while, there's this, I don't want to say chain of thought or idea that narration is cheating. Kind of like a flashback. It's kind of like internal narration. You in real life, you don't get to see inside of people's heads. You only get to see inside your own. So actually letting dialogue between two characters progress a story forward. There's something where, like, every once in a while, I like the narration because I like the purple prose, as Pat has so easily pointed out. I like hearing myself jerk off on page. Every time you guys read my comics and you see my words, that's me jerking off, according to Pat. All in your eyes too.
All right. Well, so so I don't think, I mean, to me, anyone who says that narration is cheating is wrong, because just look to novels. There's first person perspective, that is the I perspective. There's third person, which is, it's he said, she said, but in the third person limited, you also just see through one person's point of view. Like, for example, Raven before called Destiny New York Gay Harry Potter. Speaking of Harry Potter, that book is largely through the point of view of Harry Potter, even though it's written as Harry said, Harry did. It's still largely his experience, and when it's not, we don't see internal thoughts, only Harry. So that's third person limited. So anyone who limits comics to a certain way is just trying to put comics in a box. And I think that comics can be anything. If prose can be anything, if film can be anything, and the whole voiceover narration being a cheat is a much more film argument than it is comics. And I still think it's wrong. God damn. I still think it's wrong. But yeah, comics can be anything. It's open to what you want to do, and if you do it well, then that's a wrap. Then
I'll be right back, folks.
No, we're wrapping up.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to walk to the post office.
This is he.
I mean, bro. Let me mute you. All right. Oh, he's out. All right. Aurora, do you have any final questions before we pop out of here?
The only question I would like to ask is, after you map out your story, is there a tip to where to leave off on each comic to, keep it as a cliffhanger to keep people more interested?
Yes. Ending on a cliffhanger is good. Just what I would say is don't make it a forced cliffhanger. Like you know, in superhero comics, that it's so often that it'll end with the hero in peril, and it's like we know it's gonna be okay. Because if it wasn't going to be okay, there would be massive setup. So that kind of false danger is something to not do over and over again. I like the idea of an emotional cliffhanger. I like the idea of ending on some kind of emotional beat. A good way to see the kind of ending that you like is one, reading comics and seeing how it's done there, and also two, TV, especially TV that was put out on a network with commercials. They are writing for the commercial break. So check out how they do it. You know, not every single one is a cliffhanger, but it's a moment that will make people want to come back. And I do want to say to Armin, who says, tag me in, coach. Armin, we are wrapping up, but next time for sure. Aurora, I hope that we were able to help you out. And thank you for coming on and talking to us. I haven't done this podcast with Raven since the first episode about a year ago. But the topic seemed interesting. Glad to talk to you. And I hope that whatever I said more likely is probably going to help you on your writing journey.
I appreciate the assistance. I really do.
For sure. And let everyone know where they can follow you.
Oh, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, both under Aurora O'Brien.
Awesome. That is not a Roybus. That is Aurora O'Brien. Everyone go check her out. My details and Ravens are in the description below, as is. Oh, I thought that was Raven for a second. Sorry. I was like, he's still here. Our descriptions are all below, as is Aurora's. It'll be all in the links. Everyone, thanks for watching, and we'll be back at some point. Who really knows? Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.